Once upon a time, a long time ago, for somebody to configure and administer a system, they had to go physically and log into that system and do whatever changes were necessary. So try to imagine that. You walk into a room, there is this TV screen, or what looks like a TV screen, attached to a massive computer. That TV screen was called the terminal. So the terminal was basically a display that returned the output of any command that you were using or executing. It didn't understand your input. It didn't understand what you were doing. Its sole purpose, its job was to only take that input and show you the output. What understood what you were doing was a program running in the background. That program would understand what input you were typing, the keystrokes that you were typing. It would take your input, it would process it, and then it would return the output. Once the output is returned, it will be displayed on the terminal. So we needed two components at that time: the actual physical screen or the terminal and the program that was running in the background. In Linux, that program is under the /bin/bash. So if I go to places, to computer, to bin, this is the program that would understand my input. So why am I telling you all this? Here's why. If in Kali I go to this icon here, the name of this icon is the terminal. So this symbolizes what the computer screen was back then in the old days. If I open the terminal, it will open up with a program already running. This is what we call the shell. This is the bash command. So by default, the bash command is running on my terminal. Otherwise, it wouldn't be able to accept any input and display any output. This shell is what accepts my input. It will run my command in the background and send it back to the terminal to display the output. This is much more powerful than the GUI, the graphical user interface. And unlike the GUI, this is always present on servers. There's a lot of instances where you'll be doing a penetration testing or an ethical hacking engagement where you will come across a server without GUI, without all this beautiful graphical stuff. Reason being is because this is resource extensive. This takes up a lot of space and memory, which is something we cannot afford on servers. We don't want to have this performance impact. And because the graphical user interface isn't really necessary, we can do everything using the text-based interface. We usually on servers don't install the graphical interface. So this is always there. The graphical interface isn't. And this is one of the reasons why it's really important that you learn how to navigate your way through any Linux system using the terminal or the shell. So going forward, by the way, whenever I say terminal or shell, what I'm referring to is this window here, the black one. So when you're doing a penetration testing exercise or an ethical hacking engagement, your objective usually is to get a shell. What that means is your objective usually is to get access such as that one to the remote machine, which is your victim machine. You would usually get shell in one of two ways, either a root shell. As you can see here, I'm logged in as root and you will see this pound sign here. And this means that I'm logged in as the super user, or you will get a non-root shell. And that would look like, instead of a pound sign, that would be a dollar sign. And what that means is that you're logged in as a non-root user, or you're not the super user, you're a low privileged user. Now, because we are on the graphical user interface, we can customize the look and feel of this. We can do that by visiting the preferences options under the edit menu. One of the first things that I like to do when I'm recording videos is to zoom in and zoom out. How do I do that? I can see the shortcuts here that will show me the keyboard shortcuts for different commands. So for example, how to do copy paste, how to open a new terminal, and so on. To zoom in, it's Ctrl++. To zoom out, it's Ctrl+-. So now what I'm typing on my keyboard is Ctrl-Shift and the button next to my backspace, which is ++. It's the equal button. Without the shift, it wouldn't be plus, obviously. So I want to type Ctrl-Shift =, which is Ctrl-Shift++. And that zoomed in my terminal or my shell. So now you can see a bit clearer what I'm doing. One of the other things that I like to do is change the preferences of how I open a new terminal. By default, opening a new terminal would open in a new window. Personally, that's not my preference. What I like to do is to open terminals in new tabs, and I can change that under Preferences, Open New Terminal, Tab, and again notice that here I don't have an Apply button or an OK button like in Windows. It just automatically takes the new setting. I close that, I do File, Open Terminal, and it opens in a new tab. I can open as many terminals as I want, and when I'm done, I can close whatever terminal I'm done with. Now, obviously, you might be wondering, what if I want to open another terminal in a new window? You can still do that by going to the Favorites bar, right-clicking, and New Window. One other thing you can do, if you wish, is to change the way your terminal colors look like, and you can do that under Profiles. I'm going to create a new profile for the sake of this exercise. I'm going to call it red, and I'm going to change the colors. These, by the way, are some preset themes that you can pick and choose from. I'm going to do my own thing, and I'm going to change the text color, for example, to red, and the background color to white, and I'm going to close that. So what happens now, if I try to open a new terminal, I can choose the red option, and I have a new terminal with completely different settings. This is useful, for example, if you're logged in as root, just so you can remind yourself that you are logged in as the super user, and you need to be careful what commands you're executing. So the terminal would look different, it will feel different, it will remind you to be careful of what you're doing. Obviously, you can also change the fonts and a whole bunch of other things. I'll let you explore those on your own, experiment with this for a while, and then we can move on to the next section where we're going to be learning some tips and tricks and shortcuts to the terminal.